How's it going, guys? I'm Tanya, and today I'm going to be going over irrigation options for your garden. There are 6 main types of irrigation you can go with. There's hand watering with a can or a hose. There's sprinklers, soaker hose, drip lines or drip tape, and pre-made grids. I'm going to go over each of those options real quick with some pros and cons so that you can make an informed decision about what makes the most sense for you and your garden. So the hand watering, basically the cons are it's uneven. Um, it's very inconsistent. It's easy to overdo it. It's easy to underdo it. And it's time consuming. So obviously if you don't have a lot of time to be out there watering your garden every single day, especially on the hot days, you might need to do it twice even depending on your climate. Well, then that's just not going to be a very good option for your garden and your plants are going to suffer. On the plus side, though, if you are going to be out there every single day, it's definitely the cheapest. I mean, you could get a good quality hose nozzle for like 40 bucks, and you can just do a watering can for like 10 bucks if you have a small enough garden. So definitely the cheapest option. And you can get eyes on your plants if they need more water. If you see that they're looking extra dry, you can give them more because you're looking directly at them. So that's definitely a plus. So like I said, if you're going to be out there every day, if you're going to spend time in your garden every single day and you can take the time to water them while you're out there, then I mean it might be the best option for you. If you have a significant sized garden, or if you're a busy person and you're not going to be able to look every day, then I would choose a different option. There's sprinklers, which is also a very cheap method. I mean, I have a pretty big garden and I could probably do the whole thing, could probably cover all of it with 2 sprinklers. So maybe 30 or 40 bucks, and um, you can set them on a timer so you don't have to look at them every single day, and it would make sure that they're still getting watered whenever you set the timer to go off. Um, it covers a big area all at once, which makes it super easy. You don't have to worry about every individual plant and every individual garden bed and setting everything up specifically for your layout. You just throw a sprinkler in the middle on, every section of your garden, or depending on the size of your garden, you might just need one. So yeah, it would be easy. However, there are some big drawbacks to using a sprinkler that you might want to consider. For one, you're watering everything, which means the walking paths, which means not only are you watering your plants, you're watering all of the weeds that are going to be wanting to grow around them. And you might just be creating a much bigger headache for yourself uh, in the long run. Also, more expensive as far as water consumption is concerned, because you're going to be using a lot more water and less of it's going to be getting to your plants, which means you're going to need to do it more often, or at least longer watering durations, because all the water is going up in the air, which means a lot of it's going to be evaporating before it ever gets to the ground, let alone the roots of your plants. Also, you have to consider that with it going up in the air, it's going to be landing on the tops of your plants, which when plants get water all on their leaves, and the fruits or the flowers, you have a lot more fungus and disease that they're susceptible to at that point, especially in like humid environments. You'll deal with that a lot more. So you don't want to water from above if you can avoid it, because it will end up causing a lot of problems in your plants, especially a lot of plants like tomatoes. Tomatoes hate getting their leaves wet constantly over and over again. They will get fungus. Then you've got the soaker hose, which that's what I've used for the last 2 years. There's a lot of pluses to the soaker hose. Fairly inexpensive compared to other options. Really easy to set up. I mean, in general, you just run the hose back and forth wherever you want it. It's bendy, flexible, so you put it wherever you want it. And then you plug it in You can run one to the other, kind of like Christmas lights where they just run off each other, but it's uneven. The first hose is going to get the most water. Second hose will get some water. The third hose is really not going to get any water. So I found that doing 2 hoses in a row was the best I could do. So I'd have to have a splitter at the end of my garden hose, and then I'd run 2 drip hoses off of it, or soaker hoses off of it in one direction, 1 soaker hose off it in the other, because 3 was too many. So it'll be uneven. It'll be difficult. If there's a damage, you can't, and on one of the hoses, you can't just like patch it. So you'd have to rip that entire hose up and replace the whole thing, which is definitely something to consider because I dealt with that this year and it was very unfortunate. It doesn't last. It's not made to last very long. 1, 2, maybe 3 seasons if you're lucky. I got 2 out of it, and I think that's only because in between season 1 and season 2, I brought it into the garage over winter. And then even like halfway through season 2, one of the hoses was starting to go bad. So, it's a temporary solution. Also, it can waste water in between beds. If you have raised beds like I do, where you have to travel from one bed to the next, you're going to have a hose going in between there, and it's going to be just dripping water. So what I did was I used PVC pipe and I ran it in between the hoses, or in between the beds in the PVC pipe. So whatever water dripped out there would just go to the edges of the pipe and drip down. And that way I'm not watering the path, because if you're watering a path, what you're really doing is watering weeds that are going to grow in that path, and you're making it harder on yourself. So anytime you can avoid that, better, right? So then there's drip lines and drip tape. Drip lines and drip tape are the same premise. You run a bigger hose to the beds, and then you split it off into a thinner hose that goes to emitters, or a thinner hose with little holes in it that drip, or the tape. Same thing, it's just flat tape with little holes in it, like every 10 inches or so, that's going to drip. The main difference between them, the drip tape is, I think, a little easier to work with. It's a little more flexible, but you have to replace it every couple of years. It doesn't last as long. The drip line, those systems can be kind of expensive depending on which ones you go with. If you go with like the name brand, Drip Depot is a really popular one, and I think they even have like a lifetime warranty, but it's very expensive. Like, I'm talking maybe $300 to do my garden, as to where you can find sets on Home Depot and Lowe's and Amazon significantly cheaper. That's the same concept. Is the material made as well? Probably not, but $300 versus the one I'm going with this year, I got off of Amazon, and it was $45. So it's a really big difference, and we'll see what happens with it. There's a lot of pluses to the drip line and the drip tape, though. So yes, it can get expensive. It's a little bit more complicated to set up, because unlike with the soaker hose where you just run it in the bed and throw it around wherever you want it, this, you're going to have pieces you cut, attach them, put angles on it, or attach it to a splitter to send off the smaller hoses where the actual water comes out. So it's going to be a little bit more expensive to set, or not, it's going to be a little bit more complicated to set up, but it doesn't look bad. I'm pretty sure it's still going to be a one-day project, and I'll be able to run all of it. It is going to be similar to the soaker hoses in that the first plants are going to get more water than the later plants or garden beds, because the water is going to reach those emitters first. They will have more water pressure, so they will be watered more. That's a consistent problem that you're going to have with any of these watering solutions, though, aside from hand watering, where you can choose, because you're sitting there doing it yourself, how much water to give each plant. So that's one of those things where you just have to plant strategically, and make sure you start at the plants that need the most water. Um, you do have to worry about the fungus a little bit because, well, that depends on which one you get. The drip hoses that just have little holes like every 6 to 12 inches, or the drip tape tends to do every 10 inches. Um, those are coming right out at garden or at ground level, straight into the ground like a soaker hose. You don't have to worry about the fungus. But the ones that have the emitter, like the one I got from Amazon, the way it works is the smaller hose that you attach to the big hose into the garden beds, that doesn't have holes in it. What it has is emitters that you attach to it, and the emitter is like a tiny little sprinkler or a little misting system. So you do have to worry about fungus a little bit more with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it all the way down so it's right at ground level, so that it's really not getting any of the leaves. And I'll make sure I do prune any of the lower branches on stuff like tomatoes, so that I would want to do that anyway, so that it gets good airflow and so that those leaves aren't getting wet over and over again. So it's not going to have as much water loss as the soaker hose, which is really nice because unlike the soaker hose, which just everywhere on the hose is going to be releasing water, this only releases water where you have the emitters, unless you have the type of soaker hose where it has holes throughout it. Like I said, that's not the kind I bought, but even that, you have a bigger hose that goes between the beds. So there's no water loss there, which means you're not watering the ground, which means you're not introducing an ideal climate for more weeds to grow in your walkways. So that's great. Also, it saves water so that more is getting to your plants and less just getting wasted. Um, it's also nice. This is the biggest thing about it, and this is why I chose it. If part of it gets damaged, if you accidentally hit it with um, a shovel or a spade, or if a bunny happens to chew on it, you can replace just that section of hose. Just an adapter on each side and a new piece of hose in the middle, just cut it right out. It's great because you can replace just that piece instead of replacing the entire system if something gets messed up and gets a hole in it, because inevitably that will happen. And if you have to replace the entire system that you have because of one tiny hole, I guarantee you, you're going to be really mad at yourself for choosing that system. Also, it's more durable material than a soaker hose. Soaker hose is a very flexible plastic, which the more it bends, the easier it is for it to crack and break. And over the top of that fabric, or that plastic, is a fabric. This is a thicker, heavier duty, more of a rubber hose material. So how long it'll last, I'll be able to let you guys know, but it's definitely made to be more durable than a soaker hose. And then the last option you have is the pre-made grids from like Garden in Minutes. So those look convenient. I'll give them that. You pick the size of your bed and they send you a grid that is already set up, and you just set it right in your bed, hook a hose to it, and you're done. But it's extremely expensive, like very expensive. My beds are 4 foot by 8 foot. Just one of those beds would be over $150. And I have multiple of them, not to mention all the little pots I have, which, there's no way to do anything with that. So it wouldn't even be able to cover my whole garden. And there's no way I'm spending $150 per bed for an irrigation system. I can't do that. I can't justify that. Also, you still have to figure out how to get water to those grids. So you have a grid set up in each bed. You're still going to have to get something else to run the water to each of those grids. And, so that the 150 per bed isn't even covering everything you would need. And then there's the fact that if part of it gets damaged, if part of it gets chewed on by a rabbit, or you hit it with a spade or whatever, you're going to have to replace that whole grid. I don't know if Garden in Minutes makes some sort of patch kit. I haven't seen one. Doesn't mean they don't. But I certainly would not want to replace the entire grid if something gets messed up, because it's going to happen eventually. But the plus side to them, they are easy. Set it down, hook it up, and you're done. So, all right, so that's basically everything irrigation. I hope this video was helpful for someone. I hope this helped you guys see the different options out there and give you a better idea of what's right for your garden. For me, I think it's drip hose. And like I said, I'll leave a link to what I bought in the video description below, so you can check it out and see what you think. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm telling you guys what I learned during all the research I did. So thank you, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.